This video will assess the outcome of a potential conflict between Israel and Egypt. The two have historically fought multiple wars and relations have often been tense between them. Although both countries possess weapons of mass destruction, it will be assumed that neither will use them. Central to any major conflict will be a clash to gain control of the air. Looking at the fighter fleets of both countries, the Egyptian Air Force fields one of the most diverse fleets of combat aircraft in the world. The bulk of the Egyptian fleet is comprised of J-7, MiG-21 and F-16 single-engine lightweight jets, of which it deploys over 350. These designs are increasingly out of date and lack access to modern weaponry. Egypt also deploys 17 Mirage 2000 fighters which have a similar role and comparable capabilities to the F-16. These are all old lightweight designs and are very far from outstanding. Lightweight aircraft make up over 90% of the Egyptian combat inventory. The elite of the Egyptian Air Force is comprised of 24 Russian MiG-29M and 20 French Rafale medium-weight fighters. The MiG-29M has the best flight performance and deploys the most sophisticated armaments of any Egyptian fighter. The MiG is faster, climbs better, flies higher, and is much more maneuverable than any other Egyptian jet. The Rafale has more powerful sensors and newer electronics, although its speed is well below average. Its altitude is quite low and its maneuverability is mediocre. The Rafale is the slowest fighter in the Egyptian inventory and has not been equipped with modern munitions. Egypt's fighter fleet is supported by 2 squadrons of Mirage 5 attack jets, which have a limited air-to-ground and negligible air-to-air capability. These aging aircraft are designed to provide close air support to ground units. The Israeli fighter fleet is less diverse but overall much more capable. Israel also relies on the F-16 to form the bulk of its fleet, but has equipped these jets with much more modern electronics and weapons, providing a significant qualitative advantage over the Egyptian fleet. Almost 100 of Israel's F-16s are of the F-16I variant and are specialized in a strike role while benefiting from more advanced electronic warfare systems. The elite of the Israeli fleet is comprised of 58 F-15 Eagle air superiority fighters. These are high-end heavyweight platforms with powerful sensors and formidable flight performances. The F-15s are much heavier, faster and higher flying than anything in Egyptian service and carry larger radars. The F-15I, a newer strike variant of the F-15, is also in service in smaller numbers and has a much longer range. Although less maneuverable than the F-15C, the F-15I is overall the most capable jet in Israeli service. Israel also deploys a small number of F-35 stealth fighters, although these remain very far from ready for high-intensity combat and currently cannot make a significant contribution to a war effort. While Israel enjoys access to more advanced F-16 variants than Egypt and to the more capable F-15, the full extent of its advantage is clear when observing the types of air-to-air missiles deployed. Egypt is the only F-16 operator denied access to the AIM-120 active radar homing air-to-air missile for political reasons, meaning its Falcons rely on obsolete AIM-7 Sparrow missiles from the 1980s. These missiles lack active radar guidance or modern electronic warfare countermeasures, and ensure Israeli F-16s will have an overwhelming advantage. Israel's entire fighter fleet can be equipped with AIM-120C missiles, which have a 105-kilometer range and provide a formidable standoff capability. Egypt's MiG-21 and J-7 have negligible beyond visual range air-to-air capabilities. The Rafale and Mirage 2000 rely on the French Mika missile, which though superior to the AIM-7 is still far inferior to its American and Russian counterparts and has a range of just 80 kilometers. This seriously limits the ability of these fighters to go head-to-head with Israeli F-15s or F-16s. Egypt's MiG-29M is its only fighter equipped with viable long-range air-to-air missiles and deploy R-77 missiles with a 110-kilometer range. The fighter also deploys R-27 missiles with a 130-kilometer range. The MiG-29M is Egypt's fastest, most maneuverable and highest flying jet, making it the only significant threat to Israeli F-15s in the air. The F-15 still retains a slight advantage at longer ranges, however, and the jets are fielded in much greater numbers than Egypt fields the MiG-29M. Overall, looking at the combat jets in both inventories, Israel has several clear advantages. Other than the MiG-29, Egypt's fighters are all seriously outgunned due to the poorer quality of their missiles. Heavier fighters have the advantage of larger radars and the ability to carry more munitions over longer distances, One area in which Egypt does enjoy a minor advantage is in airborne early warning capabilities, with the E-2 Hawkeye platform boasting superior situational awareness and fielded in greater numbers than its Israeli counterparts. The very limited capabilities of Egyptian air-to-air missiles, however, seriously limits the Hawkeye's use, particularly as it cannot share data with the country's MiG-29M fighters. Looking to air defense, Israel deploys 3 major systems capable of threatening Egyptian aircraft, including the new David Sling, the older American Patriot, and the aging Hawk. The capabilities of these are quite limited, however, when compared to those in Egyptian service. The Patriot has a very troubled performance record and poor reliability, while the Hawk's age limits his usefulness. Israel also deploys the Arrow system, although this is not useful against aircraft and was designed to intercept ballistic missiles at high altitudes. Egypt deploys Russia's latest long-range air defense system, the S-300V4, which has many similar capabilities to the better-known S-400, but is newer and more mobile. The platform was designed to engage high-end stealth aircraft such as the American F-22 Raptor, and against fourth-generation Israeli designs it will benefit from a very high probability of kill. Each system can engage up to 64 targets simultaneously, which combined with their long ranges can pose a very serious threat to Israeli air units. The platform's electronic warfare countermeasures are state-of-the-art, and the missile system can intercept targets up to 400 kilometers away at high hypersonic speeds. While Israeli air defenses deploy 1 or 2 types of missile, the S-300V4 deploys over half a dozen, providing multiple layers of protection. The S-300 was purchased alongside complementary Russian systems, the Buk M2 and Tor M2. These systems are complemented by older systems including the S-75, S-125 and 2K-12 systems, as well as the American Hawk. While Egyptian fighters' lack of modern air-to-air missiles seriously limits their viability against Israeli targets, its multi-layered air defense network built around the S-300V4 poses a serious challenge to Israeli control of the skies. Critical to determining the outcome of an air war is assessing how capable each party is of neutralizing the other's airfields and air defenses. Egypt has only one class of viable standoff missile, the KH-35 deployed by its MiG-29s. Although this missile was designed for anti-shipping, it is capable of threatening ground targets such as airfields. With so few MiG-29s deployed and the fleet already bearing a heavy burden for air-to-air engagements, the viability of a strike mission remains extremely limited. Egyptian Rafale and F-16 fighters have been denied access to modern standoff missiles such as the Scalp and AGM-88 for political reasons, leaving them even more inept in a strike role than they are for air-to-air combat. Issues are compounded by the short ranges of all Egyptian fighters and the lack of aerial refueling capabilities. Israeli jets deploy 2 primary classes of standoff cruise missile, the Delilah and Popeye. Over 10 times as many Israeli fighters can be used to deliver cruise missile strikes, and Israel's strike capability provides the country with one of its most significant advantages. This is partly blunted, however, by the sophistication of Egyptian air defenses, with the Tor M2 and S-300V4 in particular optimized for intercepting cruise missiles. Anything not under the S-300V4's close protection, however, will likely be destroyed, including most Egyptian air bases. Egypt can partly compensate for its lack of air-to-ground weapons with superior ballistic missiles. Its North Korean-sourced arsenal provides the only viable option to neutralize Israeli airfields. Missiles in Egyptian service include the short-ranged Hwasong 5 and Hwasong 6 and medium-ranged Rodong 1. These all date back to the 1980s or early 1990s, but continue to be modernized with Korean assistance. The missiles are deployed from mobile transporter erector launchers, which makes them very difficult to neutralize, and deploy decoys among other means to confuse enemy air defenses. The Rodong 1's range allows it to strike targets across Israel with precision from anywhere on Egyptian territory, making it a very highly prized asset. These missiles employ a number of advanced countermeasures, including maneuvering re-entry vehicles, making them very difficult to intercept. Israel has no tactical ballistic missiles in service, and deploys only strategic Jericho-2 missiles with nuclear warheads. Ultimately, the Egyptian Air Force is in no position to go head-to-head with Israel. In terms of both strike and air-to-air capabilities, only the MiG-29M is capable of matching the Israelis in the air, and these will be impossibly outnumbered. Obsolete fighters, which make up the bulk of the Egyptian fleet, will take massive losses. The large distances involved will further advantage the Israelis, who are more capable at long ranges. Although Egypt has recently spent a great deal on modern Rafale fighters, they have not been equipped with modern munitions and are overwhelmingly outmatched by Israel's much heavier F-15s. While the best way to neutralize an integrated air defense network is from the ground, as Israel did in 1973, this is unlikely to be an option today due to Egypt's considerable advantages in a number of fields. Egypt's battle tanks are all Cold War era models, and it has nothing capable of matching the Israeli Merkava 4. The country's numerical superiority across the spectrum, however, from infantry to artillery and armor, are overwhelming. Egypt also has a considerable qualitative advantage in the field of attack helicopters, with the new Ka-52 comfortably outperforming anything in the Israeli inventory. With Egypt's air defenses limiting Israel's ability to provide air support to its ground troops, an Israeli ground offensive is unlikely to succeed. While Egypt's ground forces are quite formidable, they will not last long without cover from the air and will thus struggle to operate offensively. This balance of forces ensures the conflict will likely be decided by standoff and missile attacks. Both countries' navies are also heavily oriented towards defense, although Israel retains a superior submarine capability while Egypt has the advantage of carriers for both assault and anti-submarine warfare. With the MiG-29M fielded in very limited numbers, combat is likely to quickly evolve into a duel between Israeli aircraft and Egypt's air defense network, with Egyptian fighters able to provide only minimal support. Without the S-300V4, Buk M2 and other such systems, Israel's advantage would be overwhelming, with near unrestricted access to Egyptian airspace. The deployment of these systems, however, does impose serious restrictions, and Israel lacks the assets needed to neutralize the S-300V4. Ultimately, the Israeli advantage is overwhelming, primarily due to the far superior missiles used by its fighters for both air-to-air and air-to-ground roles, and its access to high-end heavyweight aircraft. Egypt's only significant advantages are its North Korean ballistic missiles and Russian air defenses, with a network built around the S-300 providing superior protection. The result of a conflict will likely be a minor Israeli victory. Should Israel find a way to neutralize the S-300V4, its victory will be overwhelming. Looking to the future, Egypt is set to deploy the Su-35 next-generation heavyweight fighter, which will be by far the most capable platform in the Middle East and Africa, and provide an advantage over Israel's F-15. The fighter can deploy R-37M air-to-air missiles with an unrivaled 400-kilometer range. Egypt is also considering purchases of MiG-35 next-generation medium fighters and JF-17 Block 3 light fighters. These are both compatible with next-generation air-to-air missiles, which can comfortably outperform the American AIM-120. These jets would allow Egypt to phase its obsolete F-16s, MiG-21s and Mirage 2000s out of service and end the Air Force's most outstanding weaknesses. Israel, for its part, is set to expand its fleet of F-15I strike fighters and will begin to equip its more advanced fighters with new AIM-120D air-to-air missiles. It will eventually be able to rely on the F-35 for high-intensity operations once the design matures further. The F-35's stealth capabilities and access to a wide range of advanced munitions could pose a much more serious threat to Egyptian air units and air defenses. Purchases of the F-15EX next-generation fighter are also reportedly under consideration. Overall, the Egyptian fleet has much more room to improve, and as it transitions away from reliance on obsolete Western and Soviet aircraft, its position will improve considerably. This transition is largely facilitated by the political shift which has occurred since 2013. We hope you enjoyed this video. For more content like this, subscribe and let us know in the comments below what you would like us to cover in future.